So for the guessing that there is a God, this would be my approach to that question, if there is a God. So I think that's the last question that we have. Then we can move it all into science as the natural way that things are, so there's no more confusion. So physics over here and God over here. So what we would do, this is a hard problem for physicists, but it's not really that hard. So using what's said about God, it's basically the only one. And so here's how I would figure out this question. So the key word is, just like in physics and math, one is always one, right? So one apple, one pen, it will always be one. That's just nature, okay? That's just nature. There's no questioning that. All right, this is not two, it's always one. All right, this is one finger. Now I have two fingers. Okay, one, now two. Call it what you want, but it's always the same, right? Uno, dos. Doesn't matter, right? It's still this. Getting rid of language, it's still this. It's still an individual, and then there's one more of that individual. So there's always, one is always one, right? So they're claiming that there's only one God. So here we can conclude that God would have to live, in order for God to live, he would have to be in reality as well. So reality would affect God as well. And you hear this all the time in the Bible. He gets angry, he gets, because he's affected, because he's in the reality, right? These are their claims, okay? So we're just using what they're giving us, all right? We're not angry at them. We're using what they're giving us, all right? That's what science and physics should be. Use what they, you shouldn't just argue just for argument's sake. Stop the arguments. What are they providing? Okay? Just stop the arguments. So reality would affect God. Okay? One apple. Okay? Now I'm going to add something here, which is gonna really affect this whole notion, okay? One dimension. Okay? Any physicist sees that, understands where I'm going with this. If God is the only one, by rule, I'm just calling it this, of one, by rule of one, I'm just reiterating that one is always one. That's basic rule one. One is always one. By rule of one, he would be just one dimension. Right? Just in general. Right? Anything that says it's the only one, you would have to apply it to one is one. Right? So it's getting a little confusing, but how do I explain this? One. Where was I going with this? So the question would be, how would one dimension affect a one God? All right, that's where it kind of caught me off. So how do I say this? One, how do I say this? So what I'm implying is there can't be only one. That's just not how nature works. Right? If there's only one, then a single cell cannot become two or more. If we're sticking with he is the only, because God can't just make his own rules. Okay? God cannot make up his own rules. That's not how nature works. And he has to live in nature, so he has to apply by this as well. God has to live by physics, is what I'm trying to say. Okay? So God has to live by physics. He has to. Or else what? He doesn't exist. Okay? The only other option God has two options. Follow rules of reality. Or not exist. Plain and simple. Okay? He only has these two options. He lives here. In reality. I don't care how many dimensions. He might be on the 5th dimensions. Oh, we don't... I have an idea for that later, but like, it doesn't matter. Okay? It doesn't matter. The physics, it applies everywhere, no matter what dimension. It doesn't matter. You have to follow the rules. That's why I'm saying science will be the only thing that's real. right? There won't be this guessing game anymore, because he has to. If he doesn't live here, in whatever reality it is, doesn't matter. If he doesn't live there, he only has the next best option. Not exist. His only two options. Okay? And for humans, we do live here. Therefore, we cannot not exist. Okay? So, the whole is everything a hologram and God is just playing with this? That can't happen. That's not the math of physics. It doesn't work. Okay? I don't have a physics degree, but I know enough of physics to know that you can't make stuff up. God cannot make his own rules. You can't do that. The rules are just the rules. Alright? Now, we'll get into dimensions and stuff later, because you create dimensions. I'm creating dimensions right now, unseen, but still following the rules. Right? What I mean by it can't make up its own rules is you can't be the only one and not apply these rules. Creating multiple dimensions follows this. Single cells becoming multiple. I'm following that rule. I can create multiple. I'm following that rule. To say I'm the only one of my kind, you're not following these rules. And if you're not following these rules, you only have one other option. You cannot exist. And that's my whole claim.